So leading up to the Thanksgiving Day weekend, Vicki has begun transitioning from fall decorations to Christmas. And this morning, she's been rooting around down in the basement, digging out her Christmas decorations like Wong Duk Dong, her Chinese snowman. Now that she's got all this stuff dug out, she's hanging it up and taking down all her fall decorations and carefully disposing of all the pumpkins that she hauled in from the pumpkin farm just a few weeks ago. Once they were deposited out in the back 40, she began working on her once-a-year masterpiece, turning our flagpole into a massive Christmas tree, which inevitably leads her into the struggle of getting the star put on the top of the tree just right. You see, our flagpole collapses into 3 different sections, and each one has its own lock pin that expands and snaps into each section of the flagpole. And unfortunately for Vicki, the 2 snap pins are offset from each other, so when she puts the star on top of the flagpole, it's hard to tell what direction the star will be facing once she has each section of the flagpole locked together. But eventually, she figures it out.
All right, so there's my... Oh, there it is. It's straight.
Vicki takes a lot of pride in her Christmas decorations, so much so that some of them never come down, like the Santa Claus that's too tall for the cupola. Anyway, while Vicki's busy preparing for Christmas, the boys and I are taking a couple of weeks off from racing to get the shop in order, preparing to go to PRI, as well as Cletus McFarland's Christmas tree race and Sick Week down in Florida. Part of getting the shop in order includes a massive cleanup effort and reorganization process. And this morning, our buddy Dave is working on running some wiring up through the attic, above the merch shop. However, he subcontracted part of the work to somebody that you may recognize.
How I ended up with this job hat.
So that's basically the Reader's Digest version of what's going on back in the new shop. Meanwhile, up front, work resumes on getting the Malibu ready for Sick Week. Tanner's working on trying to find brake pads for these Mosier brakes, and I've got Buckwheat working on replacing the dimmer switch in the steering column of the Malibu. I, on the other hand, need to pay a visit to Uncle Bob up at the machine shop. Now, if you remember, a couple of weeks ago, we pulled Billy's 555 out of his 55 Chevy, and we want to take it up to the machine shop for a wellness check before we put it back in the car.
For anybody that wants to know how to change the wonderful dimmer switch in a 79 Malibu, you don't have to take the steering wheel off. It's mounted up in here. You gotta take the steering wheel loose. You gotta take these 4 mounting bolts off and drop this bracket down, and then you can get to the screws to it. Put it up in there, and then there's a push rod that connects into it, and that's what operates your highs and lows on a Malibu. As you can see, we have nothing but professional wiring here.
The headlights in the Malibu have been stuck on high beams since last year during Sick Week. I accidentally broke the dimmer switch, flashing my headlights at Billy, trying to get him to turn his turn signal off.
Tudball's got brights.
He's about to have nitrous too.
Oh, just what he needs. Make sure it grenades something completely. There you are, numbnuts.
Now, the professional wiring under the dash of the Malibu was done by a previous employee, so Tanner wanted it put on record that he is not responsible.
This wiring mess isn't yours?
Oh, no.
You don't own any of this?
Nope, I don't own, and I'm not going to claim any of the wiring mess in this car.
You're making sure this is documented.
Yep.
Documentation has been had
Yep.
that this is not Steve's mess.
So while Buckwheat and Tanner are busy working on my Malibu, I'm on my way up to the machine shop with Billy's engine. So we're going to take this big block up to the machine shop and drop it off today. Just going to be interesting to see what exactly all is in this engine and see how much power it makes and where it makes it. We put the 496 in it. We made some changes. You know, we changed that gear ratio. I think it had a 389 in the rear end of it when the 555 was in it. And originally it had a looser converter that went 990s on motor, and then when we had a new converter built for the Nitrous system, it slowed it down a little bit on motor, but I don't think we ever really got a chance to spray it because the Nitrous kit never worked right. And that's not a reflection on Nitrous Express, that's just a reflection on who installed it and who wired it. So we need to get through some of that stuff. That car definitely needs to be rewired. It's got a lot of stuff that it needs, but we'll get there eventually. Just got a lot of stuff going on, and that car has never really been much of a priority. But we'll see. Billy's talked about putting turbos on it. I don't know what he's going to do. It's one of those things where he changes his mind a lot. So regardless, we're going to get an idea what's in this thing, see what it makes, and where it makes it. So our initial thought process here is to bolt this 555 on Bob's dyno just the way we pulled it out of the car, to see what kind of power the engine makes at what RPM it makes it at before we take the engine apart to examine what all's in it. I've always felt like that 555 should run better than it did, and I definitely want to get to the bottom of what's causing all these rocker arm failures that we had during Sick Week last January down in Florida. Bob and I got the big block unloaded out of Vicky's El Camino and set in the shop, and then went in to check in on Bob and see how he's feeling today. He's been struggling with some shoulder pain. So how's Uncle Bob today? Sore? Your shoulder's bothering you?
Extremely bad. Can't sleep at night.
That's not good.
I'm better actually working than I am sitting or sleeping.
Really? So then you go home and you're miserable.
I'm miserable. So when I'm at work and I only have limited motion, but
Well, that sucks. So you got a doctor's appointment or something?
next Monday.
Next Monday, you're going to go find out what you're going to have to do.
What I'm going to have to do.
So today you're working on Chumpy's engine?
Yeah. Worked on it. Got the Chrysler washed up.
Oh, I brought your pistons.
Yeah, I was hoping when you pulled away, I was like, well, I hope you got some more parts in there.
Yeah, it's just some of them are soaking in antifreeze. Evidently, we're not quite where we need to be yet on draining blocks. What do you got planned for this week? Are you thinking about maybe putting that 555 on?
Yeah.
I'd like to just see what it makes and where it makes it, you know what I mean? Before we do a wellness check and take it apart and see what the hell's in it. Because
Maybe we can try and do it tomorrow.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, I'm going to keep working at this, and you got me Jeremy's parts.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get these two put together.
Yeah.
My goal before I realized it was Thanksgiving was
It snuck up on us.
was to have these and also the Chrysler. I got to balance it and stuff, but a long ways away.
We got a lot going on.
Well, yeah.
A lot going on.
That's okay.
So when is Thanksgiving? Thursday?
Thursday.
And then we've got birthdays this week. It's Billy's birthday and Wyatt's birthday and I don't know, somebody else's birthday. Yeah. Is it your birthday?
No, we can't say though.
Oh, okay. All right. I forgot. You're right. We can't say. Unfortunately, we never did get that 555 dynoed, and we'll talk about that later in the video. Bob found something wrong with it before it ever fired up. All right, guys, so it's Tuesday, and it looks like we found some brake pads. They magically appeared here someplace, so we can get the rear brakes done. I think we're going to work on Nitrous this afternoon, but we need to get the Malibu finished up and get it out of the shop, get it ready for Sick Week. But this morning, I need to take Billy's 55 into Jack's Wax and drop it off. They're going to detail it before we take it to PRI. As I mentioned, it's going to be in the melling booth, and it's in pretty bad shape. I mean, it looks good in the video, but it's pretty bad. It needs cleaned up. It needs detailed. So Tanner ran up to Jegs this morning in Delaware to pick up something. He's going to stop at Jack's Wax on his way back and pick me up. So I'm going to go out and fire up the 55 real quick and see if we can get it to warm up, and I need to check fuel in the fuel tank. I don't know how much fuel's in it, but I'll probably just stop the filling station, top it off. I went outside and fired the 55 up and decided to pull it up closer to the shop, since there's a bunch of stuff in the car that I need to get unloaded before I take it into Jack's Wax.
What the people need is a way to make
it's back.
Fun project.
And it's in pretty bad shape. I don't know how that happened.
It's
And do you have any detannerizer?
whoa.
There's like freaking greasy fingerprints all over everything. I don't know. It's kind of a mess.
We'll get it fixed up for the booth.
It's going to be a project. The interior of it's pretty nasty too. It's got dust and dirt everywhere. Needs swept out.
The boys will have fun with this.
Yeah. June Pup's been riding in it a few times.
Is this her favorite one in the fleet?
One of. Yeah, she likes the Malibu in the summer when I got air conditioning on.
I can't believe how nice his door shut.
Yeah. Now the wheels on this car, I wouldn't worry too much about. Just wash them, but I wouldn't worry too much about them because they're not staying on it.
Okay.
I've got a brand new set of RC comps coming for it.
Sweet.
So you won't need to worry too much about the wheels at all. Those are temporary.
Okay. We'll still clean them up for you.
That's fine. The rears have quite a bit of brake dust on them because we just put a brand new set of brakes on the back and the brake pads are wearing in. So, yeah.
There's less rubber on the back than last time.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, don't look underneath.
Don't put this one on the list.
All right, man. Do your thing.
Thanks, Bill.
I appreciate you. After dropping Billy's 55 off in at Jack's Wax, I decided to make a trip up to the body shop to check in on my 55 and see how they're doing with it. As usual, Paul's been sending me update pictures, but nothing is quite as good as seeing it in person.
All right, so we are cleaning this thing out, and I'm gonna get the dash painted and the inner trunk bag. So I'm getting the sides sprayed as well. And we're almost to the fun part.
They're trying to get all the dust blown out of the car and get it cleaned up so they can start painting the dash and jamming the car in. Paul managed to get the dash painted as well as the interior trunk panels, as well as the front inner fenders and the bottom of the deck lid, as well as the hood. Paul decided to paint the back sides of the doors as well as the door jambs with the doors off the car. When I pulled into the body shop, Paul was unboxing all the restoration parts that he'd ordered in to make sure everything looks right, including 2 brand new front and rear bumpers to replace the old pieces that were badly pitted. As all the final pieces of restoration parts come in, and as Paul gets closer and closer to having the body ready for finished paint, it's time to start planning ahead to the next phase of the project. Now, I had already dropped off some of the interior parts down at the upholstery shop a few months ago. Now, it probably would have been less expensive and much easier to just put a stock interior kit back in Mom and Dad's 55. However, that's not the way I remember the car when I was little. So I elected to have them recreate the custom interior kit that was put in the car back in the early 70s. And in order to do that, they had to custom make these buttons that are no longer available that were used in the seats and the door panels. So anyway, once they finish up this Cadillac in the back shop, they're going to have room for Mom and Dad's 55 in December. As of right now, we're hoping to have the car painted and delivered down to the upholstery shop around Christmas. Anyway, back at my shop, we're still working on the Malibu. Tanner's finishing up the rear brakes and working on the hood pins, and if we can get everything finished up, Vicky and I plan on taking the car out to dinner for Billy's birthday, as he turned 28 years old as of 10:30 this morning. All right, everybody, it's Wednesday. We're winding down for Thanksgiving weekend, and Tanner and I are out here in the shop. We're working on the Malibu a little bit today. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a new set of axles and brakes in the back of this. This car has a Mosier rear end in it, and it's always had Mosier brakes on it. And I've always had a little bit of trouble with it leaking, the axle seals. And then the brakes on the back of this thing have always been a pain in the ass. I think it's just the way they're made. Let me show you. I'll let Tanner explain it to you. He's been having all kind of trouble with this thing. So, I mean, the brakes have always worked pretty good.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of trouble finding pads.
Yeah, the pads are hard to come by, just because it is a little bit older. And I actually did have to modify these pads even for it to fit, because it was touching the hat.
But the biggest problem with these is the design of the hat and the rotor. Mm-hmm. You can't hardly get them apart. And then these teeth that lock the rotor into the hat extend down past the back side of the hat. and they hit on the back side of the axle flange when you try and take these things off.
Yeah, so I haven't put this side back together yet, so you can see these ears right here. Like, no matter which way you put it, like if this one wants to try to go down past, you're hanging over back here and it's not gonna
So no matter what you do, you've got to take that snap ring out to disassemble the hat from the rotor. And that's
yeah, not fun.
Not fun. So we're just going to go ahead and pull the Moser brakes off this thing and put Hot Boys all the way around it.
They've been hot for sure.
They work good, but I just don't particularly care for that design.
If we ever had an event where this thing broke a rotor, I literally would have had to disassemble the snap ring in the back to take the rotor and the hat apart just to get it to come off the car, because it was hitting the back of the axle when you were trying to pull it off. So
right.
It's a pain. It's not easy to work on when you want to do brakes.
So I went ahead and called Jake and ordered a new set of strange axles, and we're going to put Hot Boys on the back of it. That way it's got strange stuff all the way around.
Yep.
Because this stuff's been kind of a pain in the butt since the day we put it on there. They've always worked good as far as, they stop good.
Yeah.
But working on them has always been a pain in the butt.
Yep. And I didn't have to call Jake 3 times to him to teach me to use a tape measure on the back of this one, so I figured...
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. I figured it out this time. Don't expect a meme after this one. So.
You and Jake have got a special relationship.
We do. He called me the tape measure bandit the other day.
It's all right. We're all learning. Yeah. So, all right. So I've got one more thing I want to get done before you leave for Thanksgiving. Yep. I got a new steering wheel we're going to put on it. Okay. Remember, I broke the steering wheel at Edgewater, and then I robbed the steering wheel out of my Monte Carlo. Mm-hmm. So I finally saved up enough money to get me a steering wheel.
There we go.
Yeah. So I got a new steering wheel laying over there on the bench. I want to get that put on, and I just want to get this thing put back together enough so we can move it in and out until next week when my new strange axles and brakes show up for it.
Yep, I'll put it all back together and then tear it all back apart.
Well, that's what we do here, right?
That's what we do.
Once we had the car put back together and the new steering wheel installed, it was just about time to head to Columbus to go to dinner. Since it's Billy's birthday, he got to pick where we go, and his favorite place to eat is the Ocean Club at Easton. And since it's over 50 degrees this evening, we decided to take the Malibu and go check out the Christmas lights. All right, everybody, it's Thursday night. I'm out here in the shop finishing up this video. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We had a really good time today. We went over to Paige's house for Thanksgiving. And we had a really good night with everybody. And we've got more things coming up this week. We've got birthdays and birthdays and more birthdays and Thanksgiving that we're going to have here at our house later this weekend. But anyway, I want to finish up this video. I touched on the 555 earlier in the video, and Bob found something really bad. He actually had it on the dyno, and he was bolting it down and getting ready to attach the drive shaft to the dyno. And when he turned the engine over by hand, he felt something that didn't feel right. It turns out the belt drive on the camshaft got a major problem. The keyways wore out in it, and definitely a major problem. There's no sense even firing that thing up. There's no sense in even dynoing it that way. I'm surprised it didn't blow up and drop a valve. We're definitely going to have to take a look at that once we take it apart. I don't know how long it's been that way. I don't know how many passes it's been like that, but probably suffice to say it's been that way for a while. So unfortunately, we're not going to really know what the 555 was making when we pulled it out. And I don't know that it really makes any difference anyway. Next week after Thanksgiving, we're going to get back on the Malibu. Tanner just installed a new Nitrous controller in it for me. I'm not sure whether the controller itself maybe got zapped when they put the roll cage in it down at 10 Soldier, or whether there was some other problem. I'm not really sure, but we went ahead and put a new Max 6 in this thing, and we're going to start getting this car ready to start testing here pretty soon. Now, I have never really tried to stand on this thing and see how fast it'll go. Mostly because it didn't have a roll bar and I couldn't hold on to the damn thing. I kept breaking the steering wheel. But now that it's got a 6-point in it, it's got some seat bracing. It's also got a good transmission in it. The last time I took this car to a track on radials on good prep and tried to see just how fast it would go, we were at XRP, and the transmission would not hold the 2-3 shift. And it also had a stock input shaft. It also had the stock low gear set in the transmission. It now has aftermarket input shaft. It has a close ratio gear set, aftermarket planetary set. The transmission, I think, is going to hold okay now, at least the one that's in it now. It's not the stock transmission that was in it before. But I think the transmission's good to go. I think it's going to hold. But now that I've got a cage in the car and I've got seat bracing, I think I can actually get after this thing in the 60 foot. Before, I was spraying the first stage, it was 150 shot, and I would phase it in just after the 60 foot, it would be in all the way. So the car's 60 foot's in the low 140s on motor. The fastest I've ever tried to spray it was 138. Like I said, it's 1.5 second ramp, and it's just coming in all the way right after the 60 foot. So with the new gear set and everything we've got in this car, I think I should be able to let it leave on 150 shot. And that really should put the car into the high 120, 60 foot range. And once I get the first stage in, then I turn the second stage on. I can probably turn the second stage on as soon as it gets into second gear. And, you know, I think the car is probably capable of going 120 miles an hour in the eighth. I don't know. We'll see how the thing goes when we get it out and get it testing. The first step I have to do is that it has a brand new ignition box in it that has not yet been programmed. So the ignition retards haven't been programmed, and I need to get into the new Max 6 and program it and just make sure everything works. I need to establish and verify that it does actually pull timing when the kits come on. So we're going to work on that stuff this week. I've got the new brakes and the new axles coming for the back. Should have that stuff on by midweek, I hope. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. I'm kind of excited to see just how fast this thing will go. I don't know that I'll probably, you know, put a whole lot of effort into it. It doesn't really matter to me, but we've got some shootouts and some things that we might get into with it here pretty soon. Of course, Tommy's trying to get his C10 or his whatever you call that truck he's got out back, that OBS truck. He's putting it together and he's wanting to grudge race it. So there's a handful of people that are always yipping, wanting to grudge race, and I just really haven't had time to really test the car and get involved with really running it hard, but that's coming. I think it'd be a good opportunity this winter while we're down in Florida. Anyway, that's about going to do it for tonight, guys. I'm going to go in and finish editing this video, get it uploaded, and I hope everybody's having a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. We'll be back out traveling and racing here pretty soon, but we just got some work we need to get done here at the shop and get some work done on the race cars, and we look forward to seeing everybody down in Florida here in the next couple of weeks. Good night, everybody.